Hey guys, welcome back to Me From Myself podcast with your host Tai June. And this episode is Save Me From My Films. As you know that I'm a creative films myself and I just enjoy movie, cinema, theater just as much as the next person. Going to see it in IMAX as the director has intended for it to be in, and enjoying the emotions and the feelings that movie makes us as audience feel. And we're going to explore a little bit about different genres, my favorites, my top 10, and hopefully try to figure out what's going on with the streaming versus movie controversies and many, many more. So stay tuned.
Happy Sunday. It's another SMFM exclusive. We got your podcast host, Ty June, and she's going to tell you everything and all kinds of things and probably absolutely nothing at all. But tune in.
Thanks for tuning in. The first thing I want to do is say thank you to all of the actors and writers that are standing strong and are on strike, making a dent and going through the process and getting everyone's attention to show how important it is for them, just as much as anyone else in the industry, creating the projects that we know and love. And I just want to thank you. And this episode is dedicated to those people. And I appreciate everything. Without you guys, there wouldn't be no projects, and without any projects there won't be any of the cookies and the cake of entertainment that's a part of our lives. So I thank you. First things first, I want to go into my favorite genre of movies is action adventure. Obviously, growing up, I was allowed to kind of sort of look at movies before I was 13 for PG-13 movies. A lot of times, most movies were rated R, PG-13 because of guns and violence. And so there you go. Every time I'm like, hey, you want to go see a movie? I'm like, does it have guns and explosions in it? I'm more so into movies such as that. Action adventure movies kind of go hand in hand with my love for also action adventure games. If you haven't seen my last video, Save Me From My Video Games, then you would know I love things like Uncharted and God of War. But movies in the cinematic sense is also so similar when it comes to these iconic action sequences like the church scene from The Kingsman or the ship hallway fight from the recent Guardians of the Galaxy 3 sequence is just so memorable in that those are iconic for me, and just remember the sequence and knowing how hard it is to do things like that, and the takes and the stitching and making sure everything in choreography is on point, stunt rigs, anything like that, you name it. It's just making sure everything is so cohesive. And technology does help a lot in that. And I can just imagine even going back to when, Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, when they were using miniatures and using explosions in a smaller scale to project a bigger impact. And so those things are what I remember the most. And action adventures are always going to be like my top genre of movies. If you want to know, yes, hey T, we're going to the movies, it's going to be action adventure. My next favorite genre is psychological thrillers. One of my most memorable ones for me is Red Eye with Miss McAdams and Mr. Murphy. Their chemistry on screen for that film is so iconic. Red eyes, just means that flight that happens later in the night into the morning hours. And those are considered red eyes. And there's a lot of twists and turns in this film. It goes very, very deep. And I'm not going to bring any element of this film up because you need to see it yourself. But if it wasn't for Red Eye and then going into like the Final Destinations, seeing every single Final Destination. If you've grown up around this time frame with the Final Destinations, seeing a log truck or seeing a tire or seeing a roller coaster, and you still kind of psych yourself out. Even though half of these movies are over 15 years old and we still think about the consequences of a movie that's not even real, that is very impactful. Same for with people with the Scream series and things like that. There's just some things you just can't get out of your head. Another one of my favorite is Sucker Punch. A lot of people don't like Sucker Punch, but first off, music in that movie is amazing. Second off, that's a movie you just have to watch more than once to be able to catch the things you didn't see the first time. Similar to another movie like Shutter Island, Leonardo always coming in with these mind flippy, freaky, twisty, turny films. You have to watch it more than once to get the information you didn't get the first time. Now the second, third, fourth time through, you're able to put the pieces together. It's intended to be mind-boggling. And I love it when a movie makes you think, because a lot of times people are, again, like my action adventure, you're just kind of going in there. There's really no sustenance. The story isn't that captivating, but it's just, oh, look at me. I'm jumping this. I'm crashing cars. I'm doing this. Da 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 da. Fast and Furious series in a nutshell. But when it comes to psychological thrillers, it's getting you to think. You're sitting there, you have to pay attention. You can't multitask. You have to give all your attention to the film and making you think, making you question yourself. That is perfection. Even kind of makes me think about the Denzel Washington's Deja Vu. That brings you into another sequence of mind and processing and thoughts. Spoiler alert for a movie that's probably more than 12 years old now. Denzel Washington's character is an ATF agent who teams up with a group of computer scientists who figured out a way to review things in the past 4 days prior, particularly in this case for a ferry bombing. And they go back and look into what could have led up to this situation and try to get clues. Push comes to shove, they figure out how to do more than just look into the past. And I'll leave it at that. And, psychological thrillers, just, I can't bring up this category without talking about Jordan Peele's Get Out. That makes me question everything, everything you ever can think about. The Jordan's known for doing things as like the last film with the Note, just the spectacle of things and getting your attention. And that's what he loves to do, is grabbing your attention and making you question everything. And he's really good at it. Talk about the funniest people on the planet, horror comedians, when those two things go together. But yeah, it makes me think how like the funniest guy in the room probably has the deeper soul of the thriller or horror aspect of things. Makes total sense. Now, let me tell you about my top 10 movies of all time with a question mark. Because I went through this list in my head over and over again. I've changed things, I've added things, I've removed things and replaced them. And I'm probably better off with the top 25, but in this moment in time, it's just going to be a top 10. And they're in no particular order, but number one is The Last Dragon. Now, hear me out. I respect Bruce Lee to the 10th and back. A lot of people have had their martial art films influenced by him. So for me, it's The Last Dragon. And the reason The Last Dragon relates more to me is just because it's the first time I saw Black people in a martial arts movie. And that showed me that there's representation in the film. And I was really young at this point, so it just caught my attention more with Taymot playing the savior and Vanity being the heroine. And then Show Enough is still an iconic character. Busta Rhymes is even channeling his inner Show Enough in his music video. And so The Last Dragon was there for me, the martial arts, the music, and the music. Again, the music. That just thinking about that now just makes me want to go listen to the soundtrack after I'm done recording, because that's just anywho. Followed by The Last Dragon, again in no particular order. The Fifth Element. Now, if I said this movie title and you have no idea what I'm talking about, we can't be friends. The Fifth Element is the game changer, and it was released in 1992, the year I was born, and it still holds up till this day. Bruce Willis, Gary Oldman, Chris Tucker, Mila Djokovic. Do I have to say anything more? Futuristic sci-fi, save the world, save save the universe, and there's going to be a few bumps along the way. I can't I can't express enough how you need to see this movie. See it. Let me know in the comments if you have. But again, if you have not seen Fifth Element, we can't be friends. Sorry. I have to rip up our friend card because you haven't seen Fifth Element. But you got time to go see it, so maybe we can renew after that. Okay, cool. Now, you know I'm a big superhero fan. I'm more of a DC diehard. No offense to Marvel, but DC was my original comic book franchise that I got into as a kid because there was more animated series for DC back growing up in the 90s to where I was more so like, oh my God, I love Batman. So next I'm going to bring up The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan. The end. I ain't got nothing else to say. The Dark Knight out of that trilogy was the best. Usually sequels are generally never the best when it comes to a trilogy, but in this case, The Dark Knight is that movie. We can't forget the Joker and Heath Ledger. Rest in peace, best Joker. Phoenix is up there too with the Jokers, but Ledger is definitely my favorite Joker outside of like the video game, and the animated voices still count as well. But The Dark Knight is in my tops. Christopher Nolan is probably in a lot of people's tops. Everyone has at least one Christopher Nolan movie in their top movies. So far on my list, I have The Dark Knight, followed by the Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman. Again, the reason why one of the elements I love about DC is the dark and grittiness of the superheroes and their side of the universe. No offense to Marvel. Marvel is a little bit more cookie cutter, bubblegum, sweetheart, everything. I feel like I can relate more with DC characters, the struggle and the issues, like a normal person. No billionaire philanthropist, no offense, Iron Man, but Batman, it's gone through it. He is a billionaire, but he's gone through it, you know? And so the Robert Pattinson's Batman has taken it to that dark and grittiness, since it is based off year one Batman comic books. He's still fresh. He's still new. He's still trying to figure himself out. And so I hope by with the spinoffs and the Batman 2, will probably be in like year 2 or 3, a little bit more veteran Batman, and be able to see a little bit more of what I'm familiar with as far as video games and the comic book series, the animated series, things like that. And so I love the grittiness and the darkness of that film. And it was beautiful. The lighting, the lack of light, just using ambient light, again, action adventure. The hallway scene that was in the trailer made me want to see the movie, where the only thing lighting the scenes was the muzzle flashes from the guns of his assailants that he was attacking. And that's all you saw in the scene. You didn't need anything else. But the lighting and the cinematography for that was just phenomenal. Light in that film. I want you to go back and watch that film. Look for color and look for light. And that barely happens. And so when it does happen, it was like very, very emphasized, like with the flare at the stadium, and the sunrise when him and Catwoman were talking, that orange glow, even like the fire from the car crash, like everything had a reason for being there. Next will be Scarface. Al Pacino, Scarface, iconic. Do I have to say anything else more than that? Going back to my mom influenced me into the mob movies and the gangster flicks. Scarface is that movie. Scarface trumps the Godfather. I'm sorry, I'm saying it. I like the Godfather, but it went on a little too far for me. Does anyone else even remember 2 and 3? I don't think so either. But Scarface, Al Pacino did his thing. Say hello to my little friend. Like, everyone knows that, regardless if you know where it's from or not. But that is iconic. That's it. Go watch it if you haven't. If you haven't watched it, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's probably on $5 on DVD or Blu-ray at Walmart or something. I'm gonna need you to add that to your repertoire. Okay, cool. Another Christopher Nolan film, Inception. Now, Inception goes into my psychological thriller love, action, all in the same little buck. And that makes you think. Christopher Nolan again. Here we are, watching it more than once. And everyone's opinion of the ending is different. But just recently, Nolan came out and said something like, it's up to your perception, but then there's like the thought that like, it didn't matter if the top stopped or not, right? He said it didn't matter. I'm up here like, well, if it didn't matter so much, why did you cut the screen black? So my whole time watching that, I've probably seen it over 30 times. My opinion is that he still is in limbo and the top was not going to stop spinning, because that was just an illusion of him thinking he got what he needed and got everything done when he wanted. But I still think he was still in limbo because the movie ended the way it started. Nolan. It doesn't matter. And he's right. He's totally right. It doesn't matter if the top spinned or not. Only thing that matters is that he was with the children, regardless if it was in limbo or regardless if it was in the real world. He was where he needed to be and where he wanted to be. So yeah, no, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if the top stopped or if it kept going. He was reunited with his children. I gotcha. Okay, let's lighten it up a little bit. So, the next film on this list is The Mask. Jim Carrey's The Mask. Now, Jim Carrey, best comedian actor of all time. He does serious stuff too. But The Mask, again, I want to say that was set in the 90s. Yes, 94. Hey, Google, when did The Mask come out?
In the United States of America, The Mask came out on July 28, 1994.
94.
Also sometimes ask me, how old was Cameron Diaz in Mask? Do you want to hear the answer?
No. Yeah, Cameron Diaz is also in that film. And it's interesting too because she was popping, right? So you have Jim Carrey's Diaz, and if you ever get a chance, I want you to go on YouTube, whatever you consume your content, and look up the behind the scenes footage for The Mask. The special effects and the computer work and CGI, as it wasn't not kind of coined then, was very, very great, of getting the animation of him spinning in the room, adding in the elaborate cartoonish Looney Tunes style animation was amazing. And the music in that movie too as well. I never knew I liked big band music until I saw The Mask. Big band music is off the chain. I would literally just listen to that unironically because it's just so good. That set off a lot of innovations for technology and just knowing that Jim Carrey is known for improvising on set, and that they were still able to captivate all those things, and he can animate his face so well, and they didn't really have to do much. But that was just, I don't know. Don't see The Mask 2. There's a second one. Watch it, but don't watch it. Sure, go ahead. I can't remember the actor right now, but he, I remember his name. I'll put it up here somewhere. Yeah, I remember the movie he was in, this one. Malibu Most Wanted. There it is. He was in Malibu Most Wanted, and then he ended up going into doing The Mask 2. I don't know why. He's funny, but I don't think anyone should do sequels to things that don't need sequels. The Mask didn't need a sequel. If it made any money, I don't know. I kind of don't care. Next thing I want to bring up is Goodfellas. I have a lot that I can say about Goodfellas. It's in my top 10, but tell me how I can't really remember. I remember who I was in it. I remember who I was involved, but I don't remember the premise of this movie, but yet is in my top 10 because I love that movie. The flashbacks, the evolution of the character, the protagonist, and his learning of trying to get in the business and the families and everything like that. And it's just like, it's on my list and I can't tell you why. It's the way it was shot. Not sure, but it's on there. Next movie, The Mummy. The Mummy. Brandon Fraser's The Mummy. The Mummy is... First off, I love time period movies in that aspect of Egyptian and everything like that. Egyptian lore, Egyptian curses and everything like that. That was a good movie. There was 3 of those in total, as you know. Brandon Fraser, but again, 90s film. And so that is iconic for the special effects in that film as well. The spectacle of it all, the set and the elaborate area that they had to put into that had one of the biggest budgets. And then there were more. And so The Mummy is a good thing. If you need to watch The Mummy, I recommend it. But if you are, if you have a phobia of bugs, insects, roaches, whatever, viewer discretion is advised. But that's a good film. They were supposed to do The Mummy again. There was supposed to have been like a Frankenstein, a mummy, and Invisible Man, and there was supposed to be multiple continuations of that, but those got scrapped. I think Tom Cruise was supposed to be a part of that and everything, and so I don't know what happened in that, but that'd been really cool to have another Mummy. Last but not least, again in no particular order, The Goonies. The Goonies is set in the 80s. The Goonies is your take on the teen rom-com action adventure storytelling film. Your Indiana Jones mixed with your adventures in babysitting elements just mixed in together. And so I just remember chunks and the treasure, and then the boat was real. That's iconic. Now, if you've never seen the Goonies, you definitely have a problem. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Go watch the Goonies. Classic 80s film. Has all the 80s little tidbits that come into the time period of the 80s, of the jokes, the humor, the hair, the everything. They should make another one of that. Why is there not is there a sequel? And I don't know. If there is one, let me know, because there should be. And I hear Everything Everywhere All at Once should be in my top 10. I haven't seen it yet, though. I know. No judgments, please. It's on my list of things to watch. I haven't got around to it, but it is an A24 film. Of course, it's going to be amazing. And of course, it won all the awards, Best Picture, everything. A24 swept up those awards. I don't want to hear nothing from nobody. I told you so. Independent development, the distributions, they are taking over. They're coming for you. Just saying. And the most recent A24 film, I haven't seen it yet, but Talk to Me was distributed by A24. And it's by your one and only RackaRacka YouTube brothers, aka Michael and Danny Filippo. And they got into Sundance, and then they were picked up from there, and it's a horror film. Possession, spirits, shot in Australia, filmed in Australia, South Australia. And it's crazy to think that they started out just YouTubers, and like they were known for like their intense stunts. They were making movies on YouTube and doing action and fight scenes and all that stuff. And then again, going back to what I said earlier about how it seems like the funniest people in the room turns out to produce the best horror films. I'm gonna look into that. There must be some psychological thing with that, how that goes hand in hand. But when they were on YouTube, they were doing whatever they wanted. They didn't care about being demonetized, being shadow banned, and things like that. And so YouTube stopped, paying or monetizing videos that weren't considered family friendly. And so the RackaRacka channel kind of died a little bit. But in the spring of things, everything happens for a reason, as they say. It's like a blessing in the skies. They want to do whatever they want. They didn't want to try to mold to the new terms of conditions for YouTube. And they end up writing a script, making a movie during the pandemic, getting all the delays, and getting picked at Sundance, and then getting picked up by A24, and then the rest is history from there. And ever since their movie came out, Talk to Me, it was all these jokes going around from like Moist Critical, and it's like, oh my God, YouTubers finally made a good movie. It's like they were on YouTube, yes, but they have always been filmmakers. The thought that unfortunately YouTubers, when they made movies or tried to go to film festivals, it didn't come out so well. It didn't go as planned. And so the thought that RackaRacka, yes, they started on YouTube. Yes, they were considered YouTubers, but from here on and now and forevermore, they would be known as filmmakers. And watching a YouTube video recently, they were being interviewed by Logan and Mike on Impulsive. Turns out they're going to do Talk to Me too. And so that's going to be awesome. Obviously, Talk to Me is the title, obviously. So good to know that they did what they set out to do, had all the delays, and that just makes me more excited knowing that the independent projects are getting their turn. And it just makes me more excited to go back into indie projects, go back into making short films or feature films. And with the Filippo brothers, it's just that they were always themselves. You can watch any interview they're in, they're just doing their thing. Again, they're infamous for just breaking out in fights in the middle of an interview because they're very well trained in stunt performing and stunt fighting. So it looks so brutal, but they know exactly what they need to do to simulate punches and, throwing the body and protecting it and everything. And so it's just one thing I remember Danny would say was that don't wait until you're ready, because you'll never be 100% ready to do anything. Just do it and go at it. And that's it. And so for anyone wanting to start anything, that thing that you want to do, just go into it. Why wait? You'll never be ready. Once you start, you only can get better from here. And a good example is myself doing this. If you look at my first episode to this episode, there's so much more growth. There's so much more change just in this short period of time. And I can imagine going from 0 to 100 in a few months, going from 0 to 1,000 in a few years. So just start. Thank you, Danny, and thank you, Michael, for tearing the industry up. I can't wait to see what they do more on. And seeing them be so successful just makes me so, just so excited for getting back into the indie and the film festivals. Like with myself, as some of you may or may not know, I was I'm a part of From Empire Productions, also now known as Supercell. And my first production credit was with the Ominous Project, found footage horror at its best. Went from producing Ominous Project 1 to co-directing on Ominous Project 2, as well as casting director on several projects there. And during 2020 was a crazy year, but From Empire Productions at that time was able to produce, create, and release 4 movies. 4 movies. Isolation, Devils Within, Monsters Are Real, and Bloody Mary. And with Devils Within, that was my actress debut. And as the words will tell you, Isolation is the opening episode for the Ominous Project Presents anthology series. And so that's where it all started, from Isolation, Devils Within, Monsters Are Real, and Bloody Mary. And then there was The Curse of Bloody Mary. I was not a part of that, but that continues on. And Former Empire, aka Supercell now, is still racking up Maniacal Night, Demonical. There's so much more coming out of there. And so keep your eyes peeled. If you want to go back to my old posts that I have on social media, the awards, the trailers, the red carpets, going to LA for the first time and premiering the Ominous Project 2. That was really fun. So there's so much more to come in the future. There's so much more time. There's unbelievable talent out there for the independent projects. And so I can't wait to scoop up all of you guys and just see what else there is to do. Being a creator is an amazing thing. Like I said, winning the awards, being official selections, nominations, and being a part of the film festivals, regardless of winning or not, it just being able to be a part and alongside some of this amazing talent. Independent films are really breaking the mold, and it's very exciting to see what happens next. But as time progresses and movies over the decades, saying like movies from the 1950s, where there was a big surge in, what do you want to call them, monster movies, like Voodoo Island, that was like a zombie flick in the 50s, and things like The Creature from the Blue Lagoon. I remember the posters and how it was like in black and white, and those classic movie posters, like even King Kong, even stemming all back that far. A lot of the movies in the 50s helped shape and mold what we know as today. A lot of sequels or remakes or remasters of these classic films. We can even go back even a little bit further to where 22, Nosferatu, aka Vampire, to this day is still the most iconic early films that have shaped supernatural and creature films from that point forward. And rumor has it they're supposed to be coming out one next year. It's been a long time coming. I feel like someone should have already done Nosferatu before, but of course you have the Draculas and the Lost Boys and the Twilights and the I guess that counts. But Nosferatu is the OG vampire movie, shaped cinema. Still scary. It still holds up. It's still a little cheesy, but it's still scary. But even like if you ever watch SpongeBob, the hash slinging slasher, yeah, the hash slinging slasher, that was a nod to Nosferatu. In that film, he'll Nosferatu. He so stupid. I don't know why it's so stupid, but if you didn't know what it was, it's a kid show putting adult elements into it. Yeah, he was the reason why the lights were going on and off. But yeah, that's where that comes from. And then like going to the 60s, you had a surge of spy films thanks to the 007s. The 60s started that genre. Adam West's Batman. 100,000,000% cheese, but it's very entertaining to watch. If you haven't seen any of the Adam West movies or the TV show of him being the Batman, that's iconic. The original Catwoman, rare to have first a female antagonist and then having a black female Catwoman as an antagonist. And that early on in the 60s was really, really rare and never heard of. So that's part of the 60s. And there was a lot of remakes, sequels, and more sequels in the 60s and 70s. There was Superman sequels, Rocky's stuff started coming out in the 70s. And the 90s will never be the same. Of course, the 90s is my birth decade. And so you had more superhero movies like Blade, Batman. Then the Jurassic Parks came out. I know I didn't say Star Wars. There's a big reason for that. But I know you're a Star Wars fan. I know you're a Lord of the Rings fan. I have not brought those up, and that's okay. And I know you're a big fan of those, and it's okay. And they are included, but just not for me. So Jurassic Park, Edward Scissorhands, the start of the Mission Impossible franchise, and the Rush Hours. Those were late 90s. Mission Impossible just came out with a recent one, which I had no idea there was another one. What number? I don't even know what number we're on. Like Mission Impossible 10, maybe 9, maybe it's 10 because it was Rogue Nation. That's neither here nor there. But yes, the Rush Hours. We need more of those. There was supposed to be another one, right? Rush Hour 4, possibly. And like the next like 10, 15 years from that is just more remakes, sequels, and copycats. And not to say that's neither good or bad. It's just we got more sequels, we got more redos and more copycats, or doing the same thing you've already done but changing it. Still the same movie. And of course, as time goes on, we have streaming has changed the way we watch movies. The last movie I saw in the movie theater was Equalizer 3. No, I haven't seen Oppenheimer or Barbie. Don't judge me. But I do know I want to see Oppenheimer because, again, Christopher Nolan made a movie. Christopher makes a movie, you go see the movie. That's just the rules. And plus, I just love Denzel Washington more. And the last movie that I remember streaming was the John Wicks 1, 2, and 3. I streamed them on Peacock before I saw John Wick 4. And so when it comes to the Netflixes, the Disney Pluses, the Maxes, the Peacocks, the Voodoos, the Crackle, they're available to you. Or even like YouTube has kind of even put their hat in the ring, where I've started noticing lately that there's a lot of free movies, a lot of them on YouTube that you can watch. A lot of them are classics, of course. So no excuses on if you haven't seen Fifth Element or haven't seen The Goonies. They may be on there. I don't know. I never looked. But you can watch a lot of classic movies for free just right off YouTube. And then, like, of course, before all of that, Netflix was doing their delivery service. And then, I don't know if you guys remember the Red Box. It had its lifespan. I do remember seeing one the other day in front of a Winn-Dixie. But yeah, Redbox, you could rent movies and I even believe games too then. And that was always convenient. Just remember just like Blockbusters. In this case, you're just pulling up to the Redbox like at 11:59 to make sure you don't get charged for an additional day. And stuff like that. It's like, yeah, some of you guys would never know about there's no more burning movies, getting movies off of LimeWire, Pirate Bay, and going to the store and getting a 50 or 100 pack of blank DVR discs and burning your favorite movies and keeping them forever. That was a lot, actually. I'm thinking about the process of doing that was a lot. And now we don't have to do that much anymore. Burning CDs, burning movies are in the past. And the one thing that makes a lot of the movies either in my top 10 or just memorable in general, even throughout this conversation, just the music, the score, the soundtrack of a movie makes a big deal for me. If I'm able to listen to a soundtrack and still be able to envision the movie or the scenes that those sounds and songs were incorporated for, you did your job. I should be able to listen to a score and see the whole movie in my head. I should be able to listen to the soundtrack and be like, oh, that's the scene when they were walking down the hallway and they were going up to the counter, and you can still see the movie going through your memory of listening to the songs. I can talk about music forever, but that's for a whole nother episode. And also too, if like film is like a part of my DNA, and I don't know what I would do if they weren't around. Being a movie buff and creating them myself, there's so much out there to consume and also create. And again, just thinking about the strike, and hopefully we can all come to a general understanding and agreement that we are here for each other, and that we want to create, and we want to create and have a living wage, and we want to be able to put food on the table and still bring the fans and the audiences what we love to do. The trope of starving artists shouldn't be true to form anymore. I have this button over here from when I was at a Thespian Society conference, and it says, "We'll act for food." That looking back at that now, that's not funny anymore, but it's unfortunately was true for the times. Even 15 years later, we're still doing this. And so, again, I dedicate this episode to them. And also, if you're into films, I recommend you check out my friend podcast on Spotify called Filmthropology, hosted by Tyler and Adam, where they discuss how movies have influenced society and the historical impact they have had on us as well. And I recommend that. The link will be in the description. And recommend checking them out. They're a really good duo. They bring off each other really well. And yeah, they're just fun to listen to on Spotify. If you want to add another podcast to your list, it's just as much as I do. But yes, this was Save Me From Myself podcast. Save Me From My Films. And thanks to everyone who's been liking and following and commenting on my videos. I appreciate you. I want to give a shout out to Jay. I appreciate you, Jay, and things like that. So I appreciate your love and support. And we'll keep doing this. I'll be here every Sunday. And of course, if there's any comments or topics or any ideas that you want to talk about, leave them in the comments below. And this is how it goes. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me for more. And I love your opinions. I love your ideas. I love your topics. So let me know if there's anything you want to talk about, and we can definitely do that. And I'm currently also running a fundraiser for America's Foundation for Suicide Prevention for Suicide Prevention Month, as well as my birthday fundraiser. So if you look at the link in the description, donate any amount counts. And I'm raising more money so that I'm also going to do the walk in November. And so also on my social medias, I have that posted there as well. So check out the link in the description for Filmthropology, and check out the link in the description for the donation tab for promoting suicide prevention. Any amount helps. So this is June. Thanks for tuning in. You made it to the end. I'll see you next weekend.